How do you draw a graph? You draw a graph by following these steps. 1. To draw the x-axis, start by finding the lowest and highest x values in the function table. You include one additional value at each end. This is the interval of your x-axis. 2. To draw the y-axis, start by finding the lowest and highest y values in the function table. Then include one additional value at each end. This is the interval of your y-axis. 3. You mark the points in the coordinate system. 4. Finally, you connect the points to draw the graph. Let's use this function table as an example to draw a graph. In this function table, you have a total of 5 pairs of coordinates: -4, -13, -2, -7, 0, -1, 2, 5, and 4, 11. It's important to plan what your x-axis and y-axis should look like before you start drawing them. This is to make sure you can fit all your points inside your coordinate system. This is why these are steps 1 and 2 in the process. To decide which values you need to mark on the x-axis and y-axis, you should find the lowest and highest values of each in the function table. Let's start with step 1, drawing the x-axis. Using the table, you find that the lowest x value is -4, and the highest is 4. Remember that it's wise to include one additional value at each end of the axis to make some extra room for the graph. So in this case, the x-axis should cover the interval -5 to 5. You draw it like this. Now on to step number 2, drawing the y-axis. You find that the lowest y value is -13, while the highest is 11. Again, it's wise to include one additional value at each end. So you make the y-axis go from -14 to 12. You draw it like this. You label the y-axis y equals f of x. This is to show that the values of f of x are the y values. That means the coordinates x, y equal x, f of x. Now that you've determined the size and scope of the axes, you move on to the third step, plotting the points from the table. The first point is -4, -13. You find -4 on the x-axis and -13 on the y-axis, and plot that point. Next is -2, -7. You find -2 on the x-axis and -7 on the y-axis to plot this point. You continue in the same manner for the points 0, -1, 2, 5, and 4, 11. Once all the points are plotted, you're ready for step 4, connecting the points to draw the graph. Let's start at the leftmost point, connecting each along the way. In this case, you end up with a straight line. Congrats! You've drawn a graph of the function. Now, you should be aware that sometimes the graph should start at one point and end at another. In these cases, you will draw a bracket or a dot at the start and end points. When you don't have specific start and end points, you sometimes mark this by drawing an arrow at each end of the graph. This indicates that the graph extends beyond the coordinate system you made. Whether the graph continues past each end or not depends on your task. And there's not much more to it. This is how you draw a graph. But be aware, many graphs are not straight lines. You draw a graph using these steps. 1. To draw the x-axis, start by finding the lowest and highest x values in the function table. You include one additional value at each end. This is the interval of your x-axis. 2. To draw the y-axis, start by finding the lowest and highest y values in the function table. Then include one additional value at each end. This is the interval of your y-axis. 3. You mark the points in the coordinate system. 4. Finally, you connect the points to draw the graph.